you're really cute. I put that license away. I thought, I'm never showing this thing again.
So what happened? You went from 5'2" at 16 to what?
Yeah, my senior year, I probably grew 7, 8 inches, had mononucleosis. I couldn't, everything was stretched out, and I continued to.
Were these actors truly messed up individuals? Or was Costner ignoring the warning signs while the troublemakers were sitting right in his circle, smiling in his face? What you're about to hear might flip your whole opinion of some of Hollywood's biggest names. Number 1, Marlon Brando. A legend so big his name alone could silence a whole room. But Costner treated him like a wildfire he wanted nowhere near his doorstep. Imagine starting with the most iconic name in Hollywood history. Someone everybody called a genius. Someone actors studied for years. And Costner still refused to stand next to him on a set. That alone tells you something wild was going on. People like to say Brando was just difficult, but nah, the truth hits way harder. Brando was a full-blown storm walking around with scripts in his hand. Unpredictable, intense, and draining. And Costner didn't want to get caught in that chaos for even 1 second. Producers who watched both men behind the scenes said Costner backed away from working with Brando way back in 1986, when Brando's team tried floating his name for the Connery role in The Untouchables. The moment Costner heard that suggestion, he shut it down quick, like he already knew the kind of drama that would follow. More names coming next, and trust me, it only gets messier. What really shook Kevin Costner wasn't Marlon Brando's talent. It was the chaos that followed him everywhere, like a shadow he couldn't shake off. On Apocalypse Now in the Philippines, Brando didn't just show up unprepared. He walked onto that set over 100 pounds heavier than expected, refusing every costume they offered and demanding the entire ending be rewritten at Mytho Base Camp. He acted like the movie belonged to him alone, and poor Coppola had to bend around every tantrum just to keep the production from collapsing. Crew members still whisper about the night Brando grabbed pages of dialogue, tossed them straight into the river, and declared, "I won't say a single line I haven't approved." That wasn't a diva moment. That was a warning shot to everyone around him. And it didn't stop there. In 2000, during the score in Montreal, Brando took things even further. He humiliated director Frank Oz by calling him Miss Piggy in front of the entire cast, clowning him repeatedly, and refusing to take direction unless it came from someone else. That moment spread through Hollywood fast, and behind closed doors, Costner allegedly shook his head and said that kind of energy ruins everything around it. Costner didn't avoid Brando out of envy. He avoided him because the chaos was too much, too loud, too draining. And the wildest part? Hollywood kept forgiving Brando every single time, handing him more chances, more roles, more respect. Meanwhile, Costner stayed far, far away, determined to never share even a single frame with him again. Part 2, Madonna, the woman who could take the simplest compliment and flip it into straight-up embarrassment. She's the only person on this whole list who didn't need months, drama, or a film shoot to make Kevin Costner dislike her. She pulled it off in under 30 seconds. Their entire clash happened in one small backstage room at the Los Angeles Sports Arena in 1990 during her Blonde Ambition tour. And it all started with one harmless sentence from Costner. What went down next became one of the most talked about moments he never forgot. "Your show was neat." That's all he said. One simple, harmless compliment. And somehow, that tiny sentence lit a fuse in Madonna like nobody expected. The moment Costner walked out of the room, she turned to the camera crew filming Truth or Dare, shoved 2 fingers in her mouth like she was gagging, rolled her eyes, and snapped, "Anyone who says my show is neat has to go." She didn't just mock him, she turned him into a joke for her whole team to laugh at. And the worst part? That footage hit theaters worldwide. Millions of people watched her clown him like it was nothing. Costner had no clue he'd been set up for public embarrassment. He walked in as a respectful fan, showed love, and left thinking everything was cool. Meanwhile, she turned him into a punchline behind his back. Costner didn't rage, didn't throw shade, didn't clap back. That's not how he moves. But in 1991, when Barbara Walters brought it up, he let the whole world know exactly how he felt, with just 7 tight, controlled words. "I don't care much for her. And coming from a man who almost never criticizes anyone, that statement landed like a hammer. It was a clean, sharp message. He was done with her energy. Madonna never gave a public apology, and Costner never forgot how quick she was to twist simple kindness into a gag on camera. After that moment, Hollywood learned something big. Even politeness could get weaponized around Madonna. Part 4. Bruce Willis, the man Costner avoided before they ever stepped foot on the same set. Bruce Willis had a reputation loud enough to reach Costner from miles away, long before anyone even thought of putting the two of them in a room together. The tension between Kevin Costner and Bruce Willis got so bad that Costner refused to even deal with him. Like, not even a polite handshake level of dealing. The dislike started the moment Costner began hearing the stories floating around Los Angeles in the late 80s and early 90s about how Willis behaved on set. And these weren't tiny rumors. These were full-on red flags waving in the wind. On Moonlighting, filmed at ABC Studios in Burbank, Willis was infamous for explosive arguments with Sybil Shepherd. Crew members said some days production just stopped completely because Willis was heated over lighting, lines, or feeling like people weren't giving him the respect he thought he deserved. Folks on set described it like walking into a storm every morning. Then more stories rolled in. Directors, including Kevin Smith, called working with Willis soul-crushing, and producers complained that he refused to shoot simple coverage shots. Assistants whispered that he'd walk off set the second something didn't go his way. It was like he needed everything to revolve around him, all day, every day. But the moment that locked in Costner's opinion came in 2010. A mutual colleague told him how Willis smashed a prop desk during a disagreement, then laughed and bragged, "They know they can't fire me." That was it, the breaking point. Costner's response was sharp and honest. There's no room for people who destroy sets just to prove a point. And that wasn't just shade, that was a boundary. Costner likes sets where people respect each other and get the work done. Willis, on the other hand, moved through Hollywood like a wrecking ball, knocking things over just because he could. Hollywood tried pairing the two of them several times, but Costner wasn't having it. He wanted nothing to do with that level of chaos. Costner turned down every single offer to work with Bruce Willis, not because he was scared of him, but because he refused to step onto a set where he'd have to clean up somebody else's emotional mess. He wanted no part of that chaos, no matter how big the paycheck was. Part 5. Alec Baldwin, the man who made Kevin Costner question whether Hollywood even had a moral compass anymore. Trouble followed Alec Baldwin the same way discipline followed Kevin Costner, and that sharp contrast is where the friction really began. Costner's breaking point didn't come during the Rust tragedy. It came way before that. In 2007, when Baldwin's furious voicemail to his 11-year-old daughter hit the news cycle, Costner was stunned. He supposedly turned to a colleague and asked, "How does a man talk that way to his own child?" That wasn't judgment. That was pure disbelief. Then came the years of nonstop drama plastered all over the front pages. Baldwin shoving photographers outside his Manhattan apartment, yelling at reporters, creating so much tension on the set of 30 Rock that crew members literally avoided him whenever they could. People who worked there later admitted they warned new hires to stay out of Baldwin's way. And when Costner heard that, oh, he was heated. To him, a set should feel like a professional workspace, not a minefield where everyone's tiptoeing around one person's anger issues. That went against everything Costner stood for: respect, control, and accountability. But the final straw? The 2018 parking space incident in Greenwich Village. After Baldwin was accused of assaulting someone over a parking spot, Costner read the police report and finally said out loud what he'd been holding back for years. Some men don't deserve the second chances they keep getting, with Baldwin. To Costner, that wasn't drama. That was a line in the sand. The issue between Kevin Costner and Alec Baldwin was never about rivalry. It was about control, or really, the lack of it. Costner refuses to stand beside anyone who turns a set into a battleground instead of a workplace, and Baldwin's behavior crossed that line way too many times. Part 6. Robert Duvall, the friendship that flipped into a full-on showdown on set. Nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared Costner for the shock of realizing that Robert Duvall, a man he admired long before. Open Range dropped in 2003, would become one of the toughest collaborators of his entire career. Costner went in expecting respect, teamwork, maybe even brotherhood. But what he got was a storm he never saw coming. Their clash exploded over one major issue. Duvall refused to take direction from Costner, even though Costner was the director. That one fact set the tone for everything that followed. The trouble started the moment they began talking about billing. Duvall made it crystal clear he would not accept second position on the poster, not even for a second. Costner, caught off guard, tried to negotiate, tried to keep things smooth, but Duvall shut it down so hard that crew members still talk about that heated meeting at the Los Angeles production office. One crew member even remembered hearing Duvall snap, "I don't follow anybody," before storming out the door. And that energy, it followed them straight onto the New Mexico set like a cloud ready to burst. During a big rehearsal for a pivotal scene, Costner offered a tiny adjustment, just a small tweak to the camera movement. Totally normal director stuff, but Duvall didn't just reject it. He raised his voice in front of the whole crew, insisting he knew better and accusing Costner of over-directing. The air got tense instantly. People froze, pretending to focus on anything else, just to avoid choosing sides. Costner stayed calm on the outside, but later that night, he privately told a producer, "He's the most stubborn man I've ever directed." That wasn't frustration. That was a man realizing his idol had become his biggest challenge on set. On screen, their performances flowed perfectly, but behind the camera, their partnership was cracking, piece by piece. They finished the movie like professionals. No public explosions, no messy headlines. But the bond between them? That bond never healed. Costner never asked Duvall to collaborate again, not out of revenge, but because something vital broke on that set. The trust. And once trust is gone, there's no clean way to rebuild it. Part 7. Oliver Stone, the director who pushed Kevin Costner right to his breaking point. What really turned JFK into a battleground instead of a smooth collaboration? The answer revealed itself almost the moment they started filming in Dallas in 1991. Costner quickly realized Oliver Stone didn't just want to tell a story. He wanted to twist history until it matched his own theory. And while Costner respected creative freedom, Stone's approach didn't just stretch the line, it stomped on it. Their first major blowup happened during a script review inside Stone's New Orleans production office. Costner questioned a scene that acted like something was proven fact when it actually wasn't. And Stone fired back immediately, pacing the room, waving his hands, insisting, "The audience doesn't want facts. They want truth." That line hit Costner like a slap. To Stone, truth was flexible, something you shaped to fit the narrative. But to Costner, this film wasn't just another Hollywood project. It carried weight. It dealt with a national tragedy that still haunted people. And he believed they owed the audience honesty, not theories dressed up as facts. That difference in philosophy didn't just create tension. It lit the fuse for a clash that only got louder as production pushed forward. Tension on that JFK set didn't just simmer. It built up every single day until it felt like the walls were vibrating. Oliver Stone kept pushing the conspiracy angles harder and harder, while Kevin Costner kept demanding real documentation before putting anything on film. Crew members remembered mornings where the arguments got so intense before shooting that the assistant director had to delay call time just to let the storm pass. One witness even recalled Stone slamming his binder onto a table and snapping, "History is a narrative. I'm shaping it." That moment sent shockwaves through the room. Costner didn't shout back. He just stepped away, calm on the outside, but stunned inside by how far Stone was willing to go. When JFK wrapped, Costner stayed publicly supportive. He kept it classy, never dragging the director in interviews. But privately, he was shaken. To him, Stone represented a dangerous kind of filmmaker, someone willing to twist reality just to win an argument or prove a point. Their professional respect survived, but Costner never again sought another project with Stone, and he made that decision with a clear mind. Now that you've heard Costner's truth, what do you think? Were these actors truly evil, or was Hollywood hiding something even darker behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts down below. You know we always read the comments. And if you want more wild Hollywood stories, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Juicy Reel, because the next story is about to shake things up even more.